Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest webinar in our VAB Inspire series. Today's topic we'll be discussing is how TV advertising grows brands. And to show this, we'll be highlighting real-world analysis and case studies proving the full funnel impact of TV. I'm Jason Wiese, Senior Vice President of Strategic Insights at VAB, and I'm joined by a great partner of ours, Amit Sharan, Senior Vice President of Marketing at Tatari. Thanks for joining us today, Amit.
Thanks for having us, Jason. Looking forward to this.
Same here. How are you doing today?
Doing great. I'm excited. We got a lot of data to cover.
We got a lot of great insights, analysis. So before we get into all of that, Amit, if you just want to take the audience through a quick overview of Tatari.
Yeah, so Tatari is a platform for running and measuring ads across both streaming and linear TV. Over the past 7 years, we've built infrastructure to modernize TV advertising. What that means is we're turning it into a digital-like experience. You can see both brand metrics and performance metrics, and we've democratized the channel to any size business. So brands can use our platform to run TV campaigns in-house or use our optional managed service where clients can get a dedicated team to help them on a week-to-week basis.
Great. As I've mentioned, Tatari is a great partner of us at VAB. And just for the audience who might not know who the VAB is, just a very quick overview. We really play a dual role in the video advertising industry. We are advocates for the highest value issues facing the multi-screen TV industry today. We sit at the center of the conversation, working in partnership with all corners of the industry to foster a more modern video marketplace. We're also very insights driven, answering marketers' video questions with actionable, original research and insights. And really what makes us different throughout the industry is that we look at advertising through a marketer's lens. We not only provide research and insights, and if you go on our website, thevab.com, you'll see over 250 insights reports actively on our website covering all realm of the video ecosystem. But besides providing that data, we also provide perspective on how this data might impact marketers' campaign strategies. So when we talked about the 250 reports that we have on our website, one of our most popular reports that's been downloaded, we released really a couple of months ago, and we'll be distilling the key insights and takeaways from this recent marketer's guide, exploring TV's impact on full funnel brand outcomes. And this guide is called 25 Ways TV Grows Brands, Powering Performance Through Full Funnel Business Outcomes. And along with sharing some insights from that, Amit will be sharing additional insights and case studies that are really going to support the ways that we talk about how TV is driving results. 3 things we're really going to cover today: key reasons why TV campaigns are successful for brands, how TV campaigns are delivering on common KPIs across the purchase funnel, and really the main takeaways for marketers in today's TV landscape. So before we get into the analysis and all the different ways that TV is driving full funnel outcomes, we did want to just take a quick kind of overview of how we pull together our attribution analysis, because we've done a ton of attribution analysis that have all kind of gone into this one marketer's guide. So as an insights-led organization for the video advertising industry, VAB has long studied the effects of how TV investment drives business outcomes. We have over 10 years of analysis doing attribution. We've done 23 reports and over 600 pages of analysis. We've looked at over 1,000 brands. We've looked at over 80 categories, and we've looked at over 30 different metrics, both on the advertising and brand side. And like I mentioned, the Marketer's Guide, the top ways that we're going to show you today is really a compilation of these VAB attribution reports with really a focus on some of our more recent analysis that we've done over the last few years. Now, I do want to say a lot has changed in the last 10 years, as we all know, in terms of how TV is, viewership, and how people are activating with TV. But the findings and correlations have been very, very consistent throughout the years of our analysis of that TV works, TV drives full funnel outcomes.
And while the VAB has a great perspective on the entire industry, Tatari has a unique perspective too. We see the actual campaign results down to the network, day part, or even creative that was used for a commercial spot. And so we plan to highlight some of those today. Just a quick glimpse of some of those brands that we work with. You're going to see a lot of the logos on this slide also covered in the analysis by the VAB team today. But I'll be diving deeper into a few case studies that we've done with some of these clients. You can see that we work with many of these companies that are first-time TV advertisers like Maiden, Com, or Nutrafol, but we also work with more established brands like Lululemon, Weight Watchers, or the Hartford.
Great. And yes, but that is a great list, a ton of brands that are overlap, like you mentioned. So it's going to be really interesting as we go through all these analysis that you're going to see a lot of brands, a lot of the same brands, a lot of the same type of brands. We're really going to be speaking the same language while we're doing analysis, and Amit's really doing his case studies with through Tatari. So like I mentioned, we've looked at over 1,000 brands analyzed, and this is just a sampling, many of which are digital native, direct-to-consumer companies. And I think it's interesting that I've mentioned before that we've been doing analysis, attribution analysis for 10 years. We've specifically been doing 10 years also of specifically looking at analyzing, studying digital native, direct-to-consumer categories and brands since 2014. I think that's important because we're probably one of the first organizations within advertising to really, really study this category. So like I mentioned, we had to have a ton of brands, about 380 or so are listed here, well, way more than this that we looked at. I think it's also interesting to talk about our analysis that, and I'll talk about this in a few slides, that we use real world examples. We're using actual examples. We're not blinding the brands. We're not saying brand A, brand B. We're not going to the category level. We're literally looking at the brands and saying what the brands are and saying that what their spend is and what their outcomes are. So like I mentioned, 80 categories that we looked at, really a diverse mix of categories that we looked at for our analysis, from apparel to travel and really everything in between. Like I mentioned, also over 30 brand metrics analyzed, including TV advertising data and a wide range of outcomes data. So what we start with at the brand level, looking at TV advertising metrics, TV spend, TV ad impressions, share of voice. And then we link that up to, well, when they're running their campaigns, what are the outcomes that we see? You know, what is driving the brand level outcomes of whether it's attention, consumer actions, sales, and we don't even stop at sales. We go on and we look at other financial metrics in terms of stock price, investor funding, company evaluation. So it's really interesting how we do this, that we look at the campaigns, the TV spend, and then the contributing outcome metrics during that same time period. And we use independent third-party resources to analyze these brand metrics. And again, this comes back to the idea that we can use brand level data because we're not using proprietary data. We're using data that's either syndicated research or not proprietary, but publicly available research. So we use Nielsen Ad Intel to get the TV spend, to get the TV impressions, to figure out share of voice across national TV, local TV, roll all the TV spend up. And then when we look at the outcomes metrics, we use ComScore to get the website traffic, whether it's unique visitors, whether it's time spent. We use iSpot for more of the ad attention, social actions, online views, positive sentiment. We use Google Trends for search queries. We also use iSpot for search queries as well, and also kind of a share search. And then in terms of finances, we look at SEC filings. If you're a public company, we look at financial statements like 10Ks and annual reports. But if you're a private company, we look at Crunchbase. We look at revenue sales. We look at investor funding. We look at company evaluations. So we covered that. So now we're going to get right into, well, how does TV advertising grow brands? So based on all the analysis we've done, we've seen how successful advertisers of all sizes and life stages are accelerating their growth by capitalizing on 7 key benefits of TV. Sure, there's more benefits of TV than the 7 listed, but we've found over 10 years that these are the ones that brands are really honing in on. So whether it's storytelling, you know, obviously the sight, sound, and motion of a TV ad can convey strong brand identity and really increase consumer engagement. The idea of availability and accessibility, just think about the digital age, think about e-commerce, think about the idea that brands can be selling online, you know, where in the past, brick and mortar, you had to build up your scale, across markets, might not be available everywhere. With e-commerce and direct-to-consumer, you're available online. So that really enables brands to seek out the scale in TV much earlier in their life stage. Also, legitimizer. TV creates, builds, and enhances brand reputation while legitimizing the brand's product or service through really high-quality programming and that association with high-quality programming. Targetability, we've come a long way with data-enabled solutions in the past 10, 5, 3 years on the TV side. There's scalable, data-driven targeting solutions like addressable TV, VOD, CTV, data-enabled linear TV that really creates efficiency and limits waste. And we talk about inclusivity. We're saying that TV is now really a medium for everybody now, because it is that creating the efficiency and that enhanced targeting capabilities through the advanced TV solutions that really lowers the traditional cost of entry. So a lot of those cost barriers have now been brought down. And then with halo effects, TV significantly improves the performance and ROI of all other digital channels, paid digital channels, social media, as well as a brand's online platforms. And we're going to get into this a lot as we move on. And then full funnel outcomes, through greater available measurement and enhanced attribution capabilities, TV has shown its ability to drive brand results. And we're going to cover off on all this a lot today. It's really going to be halo effect and full funnel outcomes that we're really going to hone in on our analysis. And as I mentioned, our VAB guide shows how TV drives brand growth through each stage of the consumer funnel, delivering results from awareness, consideration, intent, sales, and even value creation. We'll get into the value creation in a little bit. And look, I'm not going to take everybody through this, but in our full guide, which is available on our website for download, we've highlighted the 25 ways TV grows brands. And you'll see we have a few examples for awareness, consideration, intent, sales, and value creation. Again, this was a labor of love of 10 years of analysis that we've done that's really been able to crystallize down into really a 25, 26 very easy to digest report, because we use one slide to answer each of these ways, and you'll see as we go through how we set that up. Today we'll focus on 16 of the ways. So again, we're going to pull out a couple from each of the rungs of the funnel, and Tatari will be providing case studies and additional insights in support of a lot of the ways that we're going to discuss. So right now we're going to kick off with a couple of examples of how TV drives awareness. So right off the bat, TV legitimizes brands. Successful brands invest in TV early in their life stage to legitimize their product by associating with premium video programming. And I wouldn't say just associating with the high quality premium video programming. Obviously that's huge, but also associating with the major advertisers as well. There's that sort of synthesis of big advertisers running with other big national advertisers, even on the local level too. And here you'll see sampling of 20 brands who are early TV adopters. So we just pulled out, or TV advertisers, adopters. We just pulled out a few brands from our analysis over the last few years of brands who have been spending money on TV for the first 3 years after their product launch, whether it's Purple, Smile, Lisa, Casper, Keeps a Row, very well-known brands. And they got into TV pretty early.
Yeah, and one of those examples of a company investing in TV early in their life stage and legitimizing their product with premium programming is Calm. So they're known as the #1 app for sleep and meditation. Let's take a quick look at some of the data from when they ran a test with us. So over Christmas Day, the company ran their first brand campaign, and they went so far as to even bring on basketball superstar LeBron James as a spokesperson. So they were very nervous about spending $300,000 on a single TV spot during the Lakers versus Clippers game, again, taking place on Christmas Day. And this is Calm's internal data. And what it shows is that the results of the spot were both immediate, and I'm going to share a little bit more about the immediate results a little later in the deck today. But really what I wanted to point out here was that it paid off over time over the following months. You can see that their spend levels returned to normal after that one big spot, but the percent of users continuing to self-report as coming from a TV ad stayed strong long after, and the entire next month of January was ROI positive. And on the next slide here, I'll show you some of the actual download results. And so you can see that they still saw a massive lift in conversion with a 70% increase in purchases, while their budget only increased a modest amount of 7%. So really the point here is that TV and the virality of the campaign was helping improve other digital channels too, what we call that halo effect. And this is ultimately what convinced to make TV an always on channel and continue to invest over time, which I believe you're going to cover a bit next, Jason.
Yes, and it's really this continued investment and always on strategy that really enables TV to turn brands into household names. So we did this other analysis, 30 direct-to-consumer brands, Away, Casper, Hims, Movement, Ring, Babbel, and so on, where they've invested in TV over multiple years. And it's really turned them into names that people know. So what I have here on this slide, and what we showed was the rolling cum TV sum. And we're adding it up because I think it's also interesting because ads don't live in a vacuum. It's not that you see an ad and then, it's totally possible that some ads you see, it doesn't resonate, but good ads can stay with you. And there's been empirical research done that an ad can stay with you days after, weeks after, months after, even a year after. We've seen brands with impact off of a campaign years after it's run. So it's interesting to not look at spend in a vacuum, about how there's continual spend. And here, what we see here was that there was a total investment spend by these 30 brands. And between 2017 through first quarter 2021, these brands collectively invested over $3 billion in TV, really significantly increasing their exposure, building top of mind awareness through the sustaining presence. And from a compound annual growth rate in terms of TV, they were spending at a 31% clip, at least through 2020. And our analysis for this went through first quarter 2021. This is going to be one of those analysis that we're going to come back to. So keep in mind these 30 direct-to-consumer brands, because we're going to show outcomes off of these this TV investment later.
For what it's worth, Tatari started in 2016, and I see at least 5 of those logos on that slide. So take that for what it's worth.
Absolutely. And then TV enables brands to break through. So for this example, we're digging right into a specific category. And when we did this a couple of years ago, I challenge anybody to think of a more competitive category a few years ago than mattress. We just saw DTC mattress companies blowing up. And within this heavily competitive category, awareness skyrocketed for brands that launch TV campaigns. And we're going to see here on the chart, I'll explain it because you're going to see this type of analysis going on throughout today. We looked at a 3-year time period, and we looked at the monthly website unique visitor average prior to TV launch. And then we looked at what the monthly average website unique visitor was from their TV launch through the end of our analysis period. And for this, it was April 2018. So whether it was Boll & Branch, Casper, Wiese, Purple, you saw meteoric increases once they started advertising on TV. And I should mention that when you see an NA listed for like a Boll & Branch or Wiese or Tuft & Needle, that meant that their monthly traffic was pretty low. It was below the threshold to be measured by a ComScore. So they weren't even getting actionable monitored traffic through ComScore. But you can see here immediately when they launched their TV campaign, you're seeing hundreds of thousands of people going to their website from that awareness. You see Casper, their numbers tripled, and they were bringing in, or TV was bringing in 400,000 monthly visitors, new monthly visitors every month that were obviously potential consumers for them.
And for those interested in this category, we're actually working on a case study with Saatva right now. So coming soon on the Tatari website.
Excellent, great. So now we're going to take a few examples from how TV drives consideration. And first off, we're going to look at how TV provokes search queries. So brands that increase their TV investment see comparatively significant lifts in search results. So here we took a sampling of 10 brands that we've looked at, where we looked at year over year their TV spend and their search queries. So when Chewy, Home Chef, Movement, NerdWallet, right on down the road, DTC brands who increased their spend double digits, triple digits, and they saw a correspondent lift in their search results. The Googles of the world and the Bings. So very tight correlations that you see here.
Yeah, so I mentioned how TV halo effect had helped comms digital campaigns overall, but I think we have a very specific example of what you just talked about, Jason, which is search results, and that's for Knix, which is a fast-growing direct-to-consumer intimates apparel brand. And as you look at the data here, you'll see that after the first year of being on TV, their branded search results increased by 2.4 times. It doubled again in years 2 and in years 3, and it's showing the same trend for the first quarter in 2023. So while branded search is not a true outcome metric, at least in Tatari's eyes, I think some companies out there, some vendors actually think it is. Uh, this is internal data from Nix, and it gives them additional confidence in the TV's halo effect and the consideration by consumers.
Yeah, that's great data. And in addition to the search, another component of elevating brand consideration in the minds of consumers is to really get them talking about the brand, either in person with friends and family or on social media. And TV does that. So TV sparks social conversation. So we've seen increased TV investment that really leads to a significant lift in online social conversion. Or conversation. So just as we showed the search queries, we did a similar analysis of another 10 brands where we showed year over year the TV spend increase for these brands double, triple, and you saw again a corresponding increase in social actions. And we talk about social actions. That's people posting about a brand, talking about a brand, liking a brand, sharing video about a brand, making comments about the brand, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. So, no surprise there. The more exposure people have to the TV advertiser, the more people are going to be talking about it, especially on social media. And then TV delivers new customer prospects too, again, to get those people interested in being a little bit more to consider the brand. So TV campaigns expose brands to new audiences, which delivers an influx of fresh, high-value customers with more spending power. So I'm going to go back to what we showed a few slides ago, that 30 direct-to-consumer brand where they had that investment spend over the last 4 years. So keeping that time period in mind, we looked at the first quarter. So the average monthly median age, persons 50 plus composition of the average website for these 30 brands, they were about a 43 median age, 38% composition of 50 plus. And they were spending TV before that, but that $3.3 billion that they invested from first quarter 2017 through first quarter 2021, that just changed the complexion of their website traffic we've gone now from 43 to 50. We've gone from 38% 50 plus composition to 52%. We know the older consumers around 50 are going to have a little bit more spending power. We've proved that in a few other reports that we've done, and they're also going to be more high valued customers. And later on in this analysis, I'll show exactly how we quantified the fact that we can prove out that they were more high valued too. So now we're going to spend 4 or 5 examples on how TV drives intent. And TV drives people to branded digital storefronts. So after TV launch, digital native brands see a surge of new customers to their online storefronts with continued lifts through their campaigns. So this is another analysis that we did in another report. It was 36 emerging DTC consumer brands. So we looked at those younger DTC brands, a DoorDash, a Dave, a Butcher Box, a Cabbage, and so forth. You can see all the brands on the right side of the slide. But here, again, what we've done here is that we isolated out over a 4-year time period that we looked at what the average traffic was, website traffic, prior to TV launch. And then as you see, we did the average for the TV launch month. So immediately as these brands launched TV, they saw a 55% increase in their traffic, which equated to 1 million more monthly uniques. So again, 1 million more potential customers. And that it's like that switch that goes on, that TV launches, immediately you have a lot more customers, a lot new customers that probably didn't see your message in social or elsewhere coming there. And then it's really about the continued lift that you see from a sustained presence. So you see here with the monthly average, the TV launch through the end of our analysis, plus 85%, 1.6 million more monthly uniques. So really, really impressive increases we see with TV investment. And then what we did here, our next thing is TV generates greater intent at all investment levels. So I'll just go back to this slide. We took this and then we broke it out into 3 different buckets. And what we saw here was that all investment levels see substantial and sustained lifts in website traffic. So we bucketed out the 36 brands. So 500K to 200 to $2 million being spent over the 4-year time period, 2 million to 10 million. And then the 10 million plus. I'm going to spend just a minute to explain this because there's interesting nuances going on through all this. That first bucket, a lot of those brands were a little bit more testing. So they weren't investing a ton of money. They were testing and they saw results. You can see here, they were seeing results, 31% up. And then they were testing for a little bit. You can see the monthly average was pretty flat. But then, and kind of the interesting thing here is Manscaped, for example. Manscaped right around here was probably in their testing mode, because I know that right after this time period, after January 2020, they exploded with their TV growth and they saw phenomenal numbers. And I think Amit is also going to cover off a Manscaped case study later on. And then you can see here the 2 million to 10 million. You see, more investment happen at the TV launch and greater investment within their sustained period. So you saw the plus 18%, but then they invested more. You got the plus 34% for the monthly average. And then you see the brands like Tecovas, DoorDash that really just invested a big investment spend right off the bat, and then continued investing. And that's where you see the high numbers. And you see the brands with the highest TV investments also saw the largest increases in their website traffic, triple digits. But overarching, brands at all levels were seeing good increases from their TV.
Yes, I think you covered a couple really interesting categories here, both finding new audiences and also driving traffic. And so I can't tell you how many times I've heard an anecdote over my 5 years at Tatari where a brand approaches us after blowing up on Instagram or TikTok, and that's usually through paid, sometimes organic, and they have a very specific audience in mind that buys their product, and they come to TV thinking that's who they want to target. But what they figure out is they've just been targeting the same people over and over. And TV actually opens them up to an entirely new audience and sometimes a new demographic. So let's take a look at 4 of these brands and some of the results they've seen. So Roman actually used a combination of linear TV and streaming TV to reach incremental audiences. And through a campaign where they were targeting viewers watching news on streaming, they were able to see a 66% incremental audience to linear. And the campaign actually saw a 57% improvement in efficiency compared to their average campaigns. Lumi discovered it could increase consideration by reaching a new demographic. And in the fourth quarter of 2021, they were able to reach almost 40 million consumers accessing a completely new audience that wasn't reached before. And the majority of their new customers were reporting first hearing about the brand from its TV commercials. One Wheel wanted to reach a younger audience, incremental to the one who was reaching on linear TV, and then trigger conversions through programmatic retargeting ads. And they were able to reach a 72% incremental audience to linear. And then Fabletics launched a Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaign in 2021. And that campaign alone in that October-November period drove 110,000 incremental site visitors, new visitors.
And I think that incrementality idea, the incremental reach that TV delivers, is such a crucial point. And it really also plays into the idea that no brand is too young for TV if they really want to build up their brand. So our next way is TV lifts website traffic for brands at all life stages. And again, this is another analysis that we did, probably one of our biggest analysis that we did, where we looked at 140 direct-to-consumer brands across 25 different categories. And what we did here was that we looked at an average website unique visitors comparison. And what we did, we looked at when on TV monthly average during the TV campaign versus the 3-month average prior to TV launch. So when you look at something like the 3 years old or younger brands, that they saw that their website increased 138% when they were on TV during the TV campaign versus the 3 months prior to their launch. And with the 140 brands that we looked at, we cut this and we segmented it out: 40 brands for 3 years old or younger, 60 brands for brands between 4 to 7 years old, and then 40 brands for 8 years or older. And again, TV's driving results for all of these brands. It's just the idea that the younger brands, the newer brands, the brands that people definitely might not have heard of before, they get that scale, they get those new audiences, and it's driving traffic. And you can just see from the hard numbers, the increases. You're talking about 800,000 to 1.4 million new visitors on a monthly basis. And, Amit touched on this, but I just want to reiterate this, that, and, I could have mentioned this a couple slides before, but keep in mind, most DTC brands had a digital media presence well before TV. They were doing great in social. They were doing great in search. But that can only take you so far, especially in terms of audience scale. So to me, it's pretty impressive to look at these percentages, knowing that these increases are in the context of existing digital advertising that they're doing pretty much probably closer when they actually launch their brand, all pre-launch, all TV pre-launch. And you can just see that the switch goes on once they launch their TV campaigns.
Yeah, Tatari works with over 200 brands, and I honestly think our entire client roster could prove this point, that no brand is too young for TV. And sometimes there's a perception that you need to have, big budgets and just millions of dollars and put into production and media. That's truly not the case. You can get started early, and I think a good example of that is Made In. So they're a direct-to-consumer brand that makes craft quality kitchen and cookware. If you look at the data, they were relatively young and they were in their first year of business when they tested TV. They were super conscious about CPMs and the performance that they were going to get. They tested contextual, so think like cooking channel. They tested non-contextual, think stuff like news, sports, those types of publishers. And the results over this period of their pilot were interesting because the more they invested, their conversion rates and response rates actually improved. And for those that are really familiar with paid social, you tend to see the exact opposite, where you'll see diminishing returns over time. So just as you're increasing in your investment, you'll start to see your conversion rates suffer. So they were super happy with these results. But another example, I think of when no brand is too young for TV, could actually just be a product line. The brand could already exist and the business could already exist, but you're launching a new line, and that's the case with Fabletics. They are one of the largest digitally native activewear brands, and they came to market focused on women, but they launched a men's line in 2022. So as you look at their data, after being on TV with their women's line and seeing success, they launched a campaign focused on men's. And so they quickly figured out what worked with their creative, what worked with their media plan, and saw such great success that they increased their investment on the men's campaign by 150%. And look, we got a full breakdown of their entire TV journey and more of this on our website if you're interested.
Great. And that's a great example, just showing like it's not just at the brand level, all the strategies you can do, it's also at the brand line extensions as well. We know that a ton of brands have all these different extensions that they could, make their TV work harder as well. So, it's not only about younger brands getting involved in TV, it's about younger audiences being receptive to messages on TV. And what we've seen, TV motivates younger audiences to act as well. So, we pulled out over our analysis over the last few years, a few brands that are younger skewing, disruptor brands, and how they're inspiring engagement and online conversion, how they're driving younger audiences to go to these websites. So that's why you're going to see two different time periods here. Literally, we pulled them from two different analyses. But again, same idea. The monthly average to the website traffic before TV launch, and then the averages to the website traffic from the TV launch through the end of the time period for that analysis. So whether it's DoorDash, SeatGeek, Manscaped, Tecovas, Purple, Poshmark, Zelly, on, that we see these significant increases, double digits, triple digit brands coming to these websites from the TV campaigns.
One thing I'll add to this slide, Jason, is that Tecovas has done some really cool things. I think we've been talking a lot about TV advertising and people think of that 15-second or 30-second spot. Tecovas has done really cool things where they've done brand integrations like into the show Yellowstone. And so again, these are more case studies we have covered on our site, but just wanted to point out that they're doing really cool things to reach younger audiences.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's a great point. It doesn't have to be a 15-second, a 30-second, a 6-second. There's a lot of great branded integrations going on right there. And, you mentioned Yellowstone. I mean, that's a perfect example. Moving on to TV Boost's app downloads too. So we specifically looked at mobile app category as well. So when we saw that mobile app brands advertise on TV, they see significant increases in visits to their digital platforms, specifically their mobile apps. So we did this analysis, 46 mobile apps. We looked at it across categories, so across games such as Clash of Kings, Clash of Clans, Candy Crush, e-commerce, the Walmarts and Best Buys of the world, travel and transportation, Expedia, Orbitz, Uber, sports, right across the main sports platforms with their apps, and service industries or services, professional services like financial and insurance, so like Discover and Progressive. So what we saw here was when they were running, when they are actively on during our 15-month time period that we looked at, when they were actively running a TV campaign in the month, they saw 25% lift in their unique visitors to their mobile app. When they were off TV, they fell 20%. There was a 20% less visitation to their mobile app. So again, very, very interesting analysis specifically on apps and apps downloads and app visitorship.
Yeah, so when we talked about Calm earlier, I wanted to save this slide for this section when we were talking about mobile app marketing, because I think this is a really cool stat. Remember that spot on Christmas Day during the Lakers versus Clippers game that we talked about? Calm saw 7,000 downloads in 1 minute after the commercial aired. And this is just immediate response. We covered earlier about the long-term or delayed response from this one spot that they saw after. But I thought this was a great example of driving acquisition and new installs that are coming from TV. But I think we can look at another example, which is game time. And so if you're thinking about app installs, what about retaining and engaging existing users? So Game Time is an app that helps you score deals to all of your favorite events, and they created a trend analysis on re-engaging active users. So as we look at their data, you can see that a huge portion of active users open the app immediately after seeing a commercial. And so to get a little bit in the weeds here, this is easy to tell because a new user it's a little bit more delayed. They have to install the app, they have to create a user profile, etc. Existing users are just opening the app. And so the x-axis on the chart shows that when the spot aired, and then the re-engagement by different segments of users. So you can see that there's a line for users that hadn't opened the app in 1 day, 1 week, or over 3 months. And so while the trends are smaller for each cohort, you have to remember the pool actually gets smaller too. So if you've had the app for over 3 months and you haven't opened it, that's a smaller amount than the people who have recently downloaded it. Either way, within 1 minute of the ad airing, all 3 of these segments, including the people who hadn't opened it in 3 months, were opening the app and re-engaging. And I think that's just an example a lot of app marketers should consider.
Yeah, I think this is a great example of how TV really drives that top of mind awareness and immediacy and causes consumer action, especially in very competitive categories. So we're going to end this section with TV Grow's customer acquisition. So bringing back that analysis that we've done, that we've shown a couple times before earlier, the 30 direct-to-consumer brand average. And what we're showing here is that TV campaigns drive increased digital platform engagement with high-value customers who are more likely to become repeat visitors. So if we remember in the first section about awareness, we showed that these 30 brands investment spend from first quarter 2017 to the end of our analysis in early 2001. Investment spend, $3.3 billion that they invested. And that shifted their consumers for their website traffic over. We went from the 43 median age to the 50 median age. And when I talked about then about the high value customers, you can see it here that what we did here, we looked at key website metrics, the monthly average comparison. So we looked at where they were first quarter 2021 versus where they were first quarter 2017. So they increased on a monthly basis their uniques by 63%. That equates to over 3 million monthly uniques. Again, 3 million potential customers on average to these 30 brands. Their total visits increased 135%. So you increase your unique visitors 63%, you've increased your total visits 135%. There's more, these customers coming in were more likely to be repeat visitors. They were going to the website multiple times. And that also led to a good healthy increase of dwell time on the websites of about a plus 90% on average of total minutes.
So I think it's great to see data that it shows that TV can actually drive a type of visitor that repeats and comes back to your website. But TV can actually help those repeat visitors convert and drive repeat visitors as well. And so I think this is an example where Manscaped combined linear and streaming campaigns to work together. So if you look at their data, we've got a full case study on our blog, but I wanted to call out how linear helped their retargeting campaign. So linear increased Manscaped's retargeting pool by 83%. So more people, more site visitors to retarget. And that retargeting actually drove 3 times the amount of conversions that they had the previous month when they weren't doing this strategy. And it actually reduced overall retargeting acquisition costs by 58%. So the short of this is, hey, using both linear and streaming can really help a retargeting strategy and convert people who have visited your website. But I got one more example of this, and I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to talk about the biggest possible buy you could do on TV, which is the Super Bowl. So Fiverr is a company that connects businesses with freelancers, offering digital services in 500 plus categories. They ran their Super Bowl ad during the third quarter of the big game, and they generated a massive spike in website traffic. Over the next few weeks, they then retarget those visitors on streaming TV and used a variety of different creatives. The strategy ultimately reduced their acquisition costs by 75% compared to their standard TV campaign benchmarks that they had done before.
And those are two really, really great examples around the strength of convergent TV and how the data-driven capabilities of both linear TV and streaming can work together to really bolster overall brand outcomes. So we're going to now move into a couple more examples of how TV drives sales specifically. So TV ignites short-term business performance. And, one of the things we've heard over the years is, TV is more of the kind of like the longer stream. They're not really that high performance, short-term media. And A, I think we've already proved that in our first 40 slides or so, but B, this really kind of hammers it home in terms of really delivering that short-term business performance. And TV is really a catalyst for this, for igniting the revenue growth for brands during the launch year of these brands' first campaign. So again, we picked out about 5 brands. We could have gone more, but just to get the point across, looked at Away, Etsy, Movement, Latote, Poshmark, and what we showed here was that year prior to TV, where the revenues were. Obviously, the dollars for TV are going to be zero because it's a year prior to TV. And then we showed their launch year. We showed their investment, that they're investing, they're either starting to test or they're investing millions and millions of dollars. And you see that spike in their revenue on their launch year of that. We're seeing pretty decent double digit, even triple digit, very significant increases right from that TV launch year. And then TV increases long-term sales as well. We definitely do see a correlation over several years between increases in their TV investment and growth in annual revenue. So again, we picked out a few brands here: Casper, Marley Spoon, Redfin, Wayfair, Zillow, where we showed, and this was an analysis that we did, really 4-year analysis, 2017 through 2020. We showed just the rolling cum TV spend, so year over year being added together. Again, coming back to the idea that no ad lives in a vacuum, in a silo. It's all compounded. So you can see here what we did over the years of 2020 versus 2017 is that we showed the compound annual growth rate of the TV spend and the revenue. And again, you can see here pretty tight correlations here between the two. So very interesting.
Yeah, and I think this perspective of looking at annual revenues is one that more people should take into account. And I think growth marketers tend to focus on cost per visitor and customer acquisition costs when they're looking at the success of their campaigns. But it's also smart to look at the lifetime value of a customer. And that's what Nutrafol did. And so Nutrafol makes clinically proven supplements that target the root cause of thinning hair, and their customers sign up for a subscription, a monthly subscription. And so looking at their data, look, many businesses, not just subscriptions, look at recurring revenue that they can expect from a customer. And when Nutrafol did just that, they saw that they had a 5x ROAS from TV. And so, Jason, this is unheard of. Most people consider a ROAS between 1 and 2 to be good. So 5x really speaks to the power of what TV can do.
Yeah, that's an awesome stat. That's an awesome result. And that's actually a pretty good segue into our last section that we're going to cover, how TV drives value creation. Now, when you look at a lot of purchase funnels, they're going to be obviously awareness, consideration, intent, sales, maybe, there's variations with that, but usually this is the one of a 2 or 3 varieties of funnels. You might see advocacy too on this too, but what we find really interesting, this is what we really like to dig into at the VAB, is like, what is advertising meaning in terms of value creation, in terms of financial value? So it's not just about the awareness, consideration, and intent and sales. It's about the value that's being built through the successes achieved through all these pieces of the funnel. So we have a few examples of what we're talking about for value creation. We have a couple more, I think, in our full report. But TV stimulates capital investment. So I know there's a lot of numbers on this chart, but just follow me for a second here. The excitement, exposure, and increased customer base that is created from new TV campaigns often fuels more investor funding. Just as consumers get excited about a new brand, investors get excited over the possibility of the brand too, about the brand growing. So what we did here was that we've showed 10 brands that are private companies: Fanatics, Thumbtack, Warby Parker, and so on and so on. And what we did here was that we had an analysis period of 2010 through first quarter 2001. That's when our analysis was. And we isolated out the time period 2017 through August 2021, and the cum spend of between 2012 and first quarter 2021. And what we're seeing here is that 72% of the overall $5 billion in investment funds raised across these 10 private companies during the time period that we looked at, that occurred when these brands were ramping up their TV investments to broaden their customer bases. So that TV spend was not just getting customers exciting, moving sales. It was also bringing in, or more likely bringing in, capital investment, more investor funding for them, which also allows them obviously to grow even more. And then TV stokes company valuations as well. Many brands that have expanded their customer base through strong TV launches have become unicorns with valuations over $1 billion. Again, here's a sampling. There's more than this, but here's a sampling that we pulled from our analysis, that a lot of these brands launched TV campaigns, and some of them launched large campaigns. Fanatics has spent almost $1 billion in TV since the beginning of 2000. Thumbtack spent over 100 million. Warby Parker over 200 million or so, going on down the road. But here again, the strength of the TV campaigns and the ability for them to drive results through the funnel and create value has enabled them to become unicorns. So that's our summary of our marketer's guide. The full 25 ways TV grows brands is available for download. We'd love for you to go on our site, thevab.com, and download it. We have a lot more information there. And just want to kind of summarize our main takeaways for marketers in today's TV landscape, because it's not just about linear TV. We all know that. We know it's about convergent TV. It's data-driven linear TV. It's addressable TV. It's connected TV, set-top box VOD, streaming in all of its facets, whether it's AVOD, SVOD with ads, fast, vMVPD, TV everywhere, and then obviously linear TV. All this makes up for a $90 billion ad marketplace. So just a few takeaways I've gone through. TV is a high performance channel that delivers both short-term sales and long-term results. TV is inclusive and accessible for all brands and drives full funnel outcomes for every type of advertiser, regardless of life stage, size, or budget level. TV's halo effect increases the efficacy of a brand's digital platform by driving search, social interactions, website visits, app downloads, and the outcomes achieved through TV campaigns really boost the financial impact of brands by stimulating the capital investment and strengthening company valuations.
Yeah, so hopefully you've seen with all of the data we presented today that TV advertising works. And we can't ignore that the methods for getting on TV have become extremely complex. So it's hard to know what to buy, the best way to buy, strategies, and what partners you really need. And for those who are already buying TV, there's a lot of ad platforms out there that fall short. They're retrofitting tech that was built for digital. They're only buying programmatic, so it's super expensive. They aren't advertising true business outcomes, and they could be stuffing in other formats like display to make it look better. This is what makes Tatari different. So if you move to the next slide, we have world-class measurement that allows you to slice and dice the data to know what performs best. It's modern metrics, things like cost per visitor, cost per install, your customer acquisition costs, different methodologies so you can compare them across other digital channels. And we license more data than any TV company out there. Moving to the next slide, media buying needs to be smart, needs to be agile, and it needs to help you with both historical data and predictive data. Our platform is the only place where you can do both linear, streaming, targeted, non-targeted, remnant guaranteed, all in one place. So look, if you're interested in actually getting on TV for the first time, or if you're interested in doing TV the right way, we'd love to talk to you. So please check out Tatari.tv.
Great. And as I've mentioned, Tatari has been a great partner with VAB. And that's a wrap for today's webinar. I hope everybody found it interesting and informative, and they got insightful takeaways that they can go back and use for their own brands. Thank you, Amit. It's been, thank you for joining us. It's been a great time. You shared some really, really great case studies for Tatari.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Looking forward to working with the VAB again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we shared a lot of information and analysis today. So if anyone has any questions or would like to reach out to us for any information or have any discussions, our email addresses are at the bottom of this. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us and hope everybody has a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks.